Okay, I'm doing something a little different tonight. For the past couple of weeks, I have been writing microstories, which are 100-word pieces. One will appear on the Fairfield Scribes website next month, and I also did a little longer one for the Forward newspaper's April issue on Israel's 75th anniversary. Some are facts, some are barely fiction. They all reflect reality. So, different for me, I'm going to give titles to everything. A second and a half. The police car's lights flashed behind me as soon as I crossed the Katona train tracks. I passed under the blinking gates as they rose, an infraction. Had I waited a second and a half longer for them to stop blinking, I'd be okay. Instead, the cop ticketed me, and months later I appeared in traffic court. The judge fined me, then I took a course to refresh my driving skills. Weeks later, the judge was arrested for DWI and resisting arrest and temporarily relieved of his duties. In my heart, I wished him well, for he treated me fairly. Captive audience. Ken read his book, but the New Haven line commuter in the facing seat demanded conversation. Beer in hand and jacket wrinkled, he groused about inflation, property taxes, and schools ruined by changing demographics. Guys like him never got a break. Guess you're not interested, he slurred to Ken's silence. Ken shrugged. Sorry. The lack of engagement led to muttering about Hartford screwing taxpayers. Ken glanced around, but the other riders shunned eye contact as the complaints got louder. Ken was ready to edge away when the tightly wound man stumbled off in Westport. His captive audience's clenched shoulders finally relaxed. Language lessons, or saudade, if you know Brazilian Portuguese. That early online connection between Brenda and Flavio felt delirious, two souls crossing borders and languages. From IMs to coffee to movie dates, they progressed. Brenda loved hearing about his Sao Paulo upbringing. He enjoyed her stories of Westchester County suburbia. Then the trajectory faltered and flatlined. Frantic to stay connected, Brenda began studying Brazilian Portuguese so he'd help her with pronunciation and grammar. Flavio dissolved from romantic hope to a coolly distant tutor. She asked Flavio to translate a song title. What does Eu amo você mean? It means, I love you. She smiled wistfully, with saudade. That's what I've wanted to hear. The prophet's day job. Dawn had barely scraped the Judean hills when Jeremiah's eyes flickered open. Last night had been rough. He secretly copied the prophetic roll the king had burned, then stood before the temple warning that the Almighty's patience was totally exhausted and invaders were surging toward the city gates. Crowds laughed as he dodged camel dung hurled by the brats. His bones and heart both ached. Well, they'd better start learning Babylonian PDQ, he muttered. Time for work. He lit the fire in his market stall to prepare his famous frothy land of milk and honey concoctions. For Jeremiah's drinks, even the scoffers paid top shekel. Finally, my kaleidoscopic first trip to Israel. I first visited Israel in June 1982 when I didn't know an aleph from a bet, but I was eager to learn. My Jewish savvy girlfriend, Adina, urged me to go, so I joined a tour that arrived at the start of the First Lebanon War. I documented the trip with my Canon AE-1 film camera. Photos from Masada, Yad Vashem, Hebron, and the Western Wall, mixed with scenes of military trucks on the move, troops mustering, and tank emplacements near the Lebanon border. Pictures show the 24-year-old version of me squinting in the blinding sun, standing against blasted rock walls. In one photo, I'm holding a copy of the Jerusalem Post with the headline, Israel-Syria clashes are escalating. Well, this strengthened my growing engagement in Judaism. And as a young writer, I knew a good story when I'd lived one. So on November 14, 1982, the Yiddish Forward's English section ran my 3,000 word account, my first time, visit to Israel. 35 years later, I wrote a 6-part online series about my second trip to Israel. Thank you.